Hey YouTube, got another recipe for you this afternoon. Going to do two southern favorite gravies. My parents both love these. One is tomato steak gravy. You can make it with hamburger, or you can make it with chuck steaks, or pretty much sirloins, any kind of inexpensive cut of meat, or just burger by itself. The second gravy I'm going to be making is, you guys in the military are real familiar with this. Also, Southern people recognize it. We call it SOS, something on a shingle. It's basically roast beef chopped up and a gravy made with the drippings from the meat and served on toast, biscuits. Some people do it with sausage and make a milk gravy. My family, we always done it with a brown gravy and with beef, and we put it on toast. So we'll get things started. We're going to get our cutting board out. We got about 2.5 to 3 pounds of ground chuck. Got my frying pan. Go ahead and get a little heat rolling on that. Before I get too far into this, guess what time it is? If you're on the East Coast of the United States, you know it's that dreaded season again, and we got Dorian. Glad to hear Florida's hopefully not going to get a direct hit, but I'm also sorry to hear that it may come up the coast and muck things up for a while. But anyway, we'll discuss that later next week. Speaking of next week, I hope I understood this right the other night with the gang. Robert Nurden's channel from Wales, the UK, we used to do a live night at 8 p.m. UK time. It looks like everybody's wanting to bring that back. So any of you that subscribe to me, go on over to Robert Nurden's channel, check him out. I've also got a list of people I'd like to mention, since that was one of the topics that we discussed on the last live night that we had. And that's people that we subscribe to each other. We all on the live nights try to subscribe to each other's channels. First and foremost, person that got me interested and started in this is Robert Nurden himself. Second, Karen for you, she's our moderator, or one of. Captain Jerk, whose shirt I wear. Wayne, Tapper, Lionel Grand Dupree, Canada. Jason Andrews, hadn't seen Jason in a while, we miss him. Hope he'll come back to the live nights, and hope he'll at least check out some of my videos. The Carolina Auditor, a good friend of mine. We were good friends since about the age of 3. He does things as far as audits, the municipalities, the police departments, the sheriff's departments. If you like that kind of drama and that kind of intensity, by all means check him out. And last but not least is a person that really enjoy what they do, and wish I could be as half as successful at what they do as they are, and that's Aqua Chigger out of Maryland. So if you like metal detecting, if you like the Civil War, if you like mudlarking, as you call it in the UK, we call it marsh hunting here. Go over to Aqua Chigger's channel and check out his treasure hunting, his metal detecting, his Civil War relics, and he's just got a good demeanor about himself. Him and his wife foster misfit animals. If you don't understand that, check out his channel. You'll see what I mean about the misfit animals. But anyway, back to what's at hand. The recipes for tonight. So first we're going to get started off. We're going to do the tomato steak gravy, and I'm going to start off with this ground chuck. This is, again, is part of my family's taking care of my parents, my sister, and my baby daughter. We're taking turns cooking meals. So go ahead and start making some of these patties. I'll show you about the size of them. They don't eat as much as they used to, but anyway, we want to make sure they get a good variety of food. I'm going to show you how I hand pat these out, just a few of them. After I get most of them cooked, I'll bring you back in and show you how I make the gravy and spices, seasonings that I add to it. These are basically about maybe a quarter pound, a little bit less than a quarter pound size burgers, and they're ground chuck. That's a good flavor of meat. We like to chuck over the sirloin and the round, and especially just the ground beef. But anyway, this gets as the name says, tomatoes. It gets some diced tomatoes. I chop up some onion and put with it. And as soon as I get these rolling, I'll bring you back in and we'll get going. Okay, and we're back. We got the last batch of the ground chuck fried up. Got a baker's dozen out of that portion of meat. If you're not familiar with that term, it's the number 13. That's a Bella treat. One day you'll get the meat Bella. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to split this gravy up, or this grease up right here, so that I can have some drippings for the next batch. Sorry, I don't mean to turn my back to you. Already. Now, I'm going to soften up some sweet onions. You've heard me mention in my other videos. I like to use Valdeas whenever possible, and that's a sweet onion that comes from Georgia. Texas has some sweet onions. You can grow sweet onions everywhere, but you can only grow Valdeia onions in Valdeia, Georgia. So anyway, we're going to soften these up a little bit, and then I'm going to strain these off, and I'm going to make a roux, and from the roux, I'm going to make a gravy, and then I'll add the tomatoes. And I have a request this time that they want more gravy for the amount of tomatoes that I put in. So they're going to get this pot here full of gravy this time. And then I'll come back and I'll make another gravy, which is the SOS, the stuff on the shingle. So as soon as I get these softened up, I'll bring you back and we'll make the roux and then the gravy. Alrighty, now we're going to make the roux. So, got a grease good and hot. Want to add some flour. Get that where I can get just a little bit more out there. And yes, you don't have to make a roux. You can buy gravy and just add what you want to the gravy, and it will be just fine if that's what you like. I was taught at a very early age by two grandmothers that loved to cook how to make gravies, how to make roux, how to fix eggs, and the rest is history. Should make a decent amount of gravy. I'm going to make 2 batches for the tomato steak gravy. I like to use hot water in my roux when I go to thicken them. Some people don't. Just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Don't stop. Once you make that roux and you start thickening from then on, don't stop. Just keep it moving. And you might think, oh, it's going to clabber and it's going to make a mess, but trust me, you keep that temperature up, it will all melt together nice and creamy. is keep it moving. That's the whole key to the gravy, is keep it moving. Slide that off the heat while I get some more hot water. Sorry to turn my back. Back on the heat. Like my other videos, I've told you, if I was making this for my family or friends, company, stuff like that, I would season this, but my parents don't care for much seasoning, so I don't season anything. I let them season it. And I'm getting a little bit sloppy there. I'll try to slow down a minute. But the gist is just keep it moving, keep it moving. Now you can, and I was taught, but in a little bit of a hurry, you can brown your roux to the color that you like. It requires a lot of attention. It requires good timing. On the other hand, they make this stuff here, Kitchen Bouquet. I like it. Even if you buy the store-bought gravy already made in a container or in a jar, you can still add about a half a teaspoon. And voila, you get nice brown gravy. Unless you want to make a milk gravy, then you don't want to add the browning agent. One other thing I do like to add just a little bit of, and that's also about a half a teaspoon, and that's a liquid smoke product. Normally right now I would add copious amounts of fresh ground pepper, table salt, iodized. If you're wondering about my hot water, I have an instant hot water tap. So it's basically right at 200 degrees coming out of the tap. Is separate from our regular tap water. Has its own heater tank and own reservoir. If you can see it on the camera or not, that's got a nice sheen to it. I'm going to go ahead and put the sweet onions back into it. I got a little bit of char on those. That's the way they like them. So some of y'all, you might say, ooh, a little bit crispy, but it's not. Just gives a little crunch. All right. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to show you the prep for the other. And this will be for the chipped beef. Pardon the camera movement. Get you right there. All right. This is basically a luncheon meat product. What I like to do is take this and get it diced up. Like I said, guys that's been in the military, you've seen this just about on every chow hall, on every base you've ever been on for breakfast. My family likes it. supper, lunch, breakfast, you name it. Toast up some bread, heat up your SOS, pile it on. Right, that's ready for our next recipe. I'm going to get the finishing touches on the tomato steak gravy, which is what's on the stove right now. I'm going to add that to my stock pot. While I'm off camera, I'll make up another batch of gravy. I'll bring you back on when I have all the ingredients incorporated. I'll show you what's going in it before I shut down this time. This is a bouillon. This is just basically dehydrated meat drippings. Alright, I'm going to bring you back to the stove. Try to edit out all this wiggleness. Let's see. Sorry about this. I got to get a better setup. All in time. Okay, I've added the bouillon to this. It's going to get that stirred in and dissolved. It'll just help give it a little bit more of a beef flavor. I'm not going to add the ground chuck that I made in the patties. My parents decided they wanted to be able, if they wanted to have cheeseburgers or hamburgers or crumble it up and put it in chili, or just pretty much do whatever they wanted to do with it. They could add it to this. I'm going to add this gravy to this. Kill the heat on that right now. This is just diced tomatoes. This is the tomato steak gravy, hence the name, the tomatoes. I'm going to make one more big pot of gravy, or can of gravy like that. And then that recipe will be done. So I'm going to whip that up right quick, and then I'll bring you back in when I go to make the gravy for the SOS. Okay, now we got the tomato steak gravy done. Save a little bit out for myself. I'm sorry, it's that good to me. Anyway, you can see the gravy's nice and thick now. I got one of the little patties. I've got the heat off of it. Normally the way we serve this would be served with a type of meat like I mentioned before, either a flat steak, a sirloin, a ground chuck patties like hamburger patties. Put a little seasoning in ours. I need to get the oil going in there. A little bit of pepper. And a little bit of salt. I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. Marry a little. Okay. We got my oil nice and hot. Time to do the SOS. We've got the chopped beef. We're going to make a roux just like we did before. If you don't have quite enough drippings from your fat, I like to use peanut oil. It'll take on whatever flavor you add it to. It's another one of those southern things, peanut oil. Getting a nice roux going here. Flour. This is just a pre-sifted flour. It's all, I can use regular baking flour. It's just it needs to be sifted. If not, your gravy will have clumps if you don't pre-sift your flour. Alrighty, start with that hot water again. Like I say, it's just my preference, but I like to use hot water as opposed to cold. I find the gravy will thicken a little bit easier with the water's hot, along with the hot oil. Roux, as opposed to putting cold tap water, or even worse, cold refrigerated water. So you can see how that thickens up quite nice before I add any coloring to it. Just something about gravy. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a southern thing, or being raised with gravy and bread at meals, even breakfast. We even make a gravy with coffee. Can you imagine that? All right, get a little bit more water. Some of the beef stock or the bouillon. Give it a little bit more beef flavor. That nice and broke up and dissolved. The kitchen bouquet. Give it a nice color. Again, about a half teaspoon. Same thing with the liquid smoke, about a half a teaspoon, and gives us a nice color. It's thickening up nicely. And we'll take and we'll add the beef. Make sure that's nice and incorporated. Starting to thicken up a little bit, get some more water in there. And again, if I was fixing this for myself, my wife, my girls, we would salt and pepper this. Sometimes I put a little garlic in it. Sometimes a little spicy pepper, a little crushed red, or never jalapenos. I can't do anything hot like that. Of course, the guys at work that were in service say they can't eat this without a pepper sauce like Texas Pete or a Tabasco kind of seasoning, or there's another one out now, it's an Asian sriracha. I imagine that would be good if you like hot stuff in your gravy. Whoops. As you can see, when it's runny, it's runny. Alrighty, and there you have it. That's 2 gravy dishes, real common in the South. This one over here again is tomato steak gravy. It's basically a brown gravy which you add crushed, diced, or chopped tomatoes, a little bit of onion, some salt and pepper, and then when you're over kind of inexpensive meat you choose, whether you want a called jiffy steaks, or put hamburgers in it, or round or sirloin, anything like that. And normally this one is not served on bread. It could be. Don't see any reason why you couldn't. We just never had it that way. This one here is just about always served on bread, whether it's a biscuit or whether it's toast, but some kind of bread, and then just pour this all over it. Just slather it, as we say. And as tradition here, you're not done until you take and mop your plate with your bread and get all the gravy off of it. I know I've been doing a lot of cooking stuff lately, but in my retirement announcement that I've been making everywhere, this coming week I will be out in the shop. I have a couple of projects. First thing I'm going to be working on is a saltwater fish mount for one of my parents' neighbors. I'm going to be doing a redo on it. I don't like to talk bad about somebody else's work, but evidently I don't think this person had ever seen a dolphin. And I'm not talking about flipper. I'm talking about the species of dolphin you may have heard referred to as Maui Wowie or Mahi Mahi. That's basically a Pacific fish. This would be an Atlantic fish. They're beautiful fish. They have a very wide spectrum of colors. They have fairly dark blue dots. They have a lot of yellows, greens, blues, and some black. Anyway, you'll get to see it as I received it, with the damage and lack of detail, and you'll see as I work it and bring it into hopefully what looks like kind of a more realistic looking fish, as opposed to what we have right now. Anyway, don't forget, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. UK time, Robert Nurden's channel. I think that's around 2 to 3 Eastern Standard Time. But come join us, say hello. You don't have to stay the whole night, but just pop in and see if you like it. You're more welcome to stay and chat topics. We might talk UFOs, we might talk food. It's just no telling where that conversation goes. We're normally on for a couple of hours. We have a good time. Check out some of the other people I mentioned in the beginning. Definitely Aquachigger. Karen For You does a lot of nice weather videos. Lionel does a lot of giveaways with sterling silver. So check out his site. But we all just try to support each other. And also, if you like the law enforcement and drama kind of stuff, check out Carolina Auditor, and he's burning it up. He's growing leaps and bounds. I would dare to say he's getting close to about 500,000 hits right now on YouTube. So go check out my friends, and hope to see you Thursday night. And don't forget, subscribe and like. And it's Tim the Toolman of ENC. We'll talk to you later.